School buildings in a number of Pennsylvania districts are in bad need of repair work. And in his recent budget address, Governor Shapiro proposed hundreds of millions of dollars in funding for school construction projects.
Fox 43's Marshall Keeley visited one of the schools in Lancaster that needs it the most, and he breaks down the arguments surrounding the new funding and how a delay in Harrisburg could hurt schools.
Wow. Still original.
These doors have been in use for nearly 70 years. Students have been walking through them since Burrowes Elementary School opened in the 1950s. The building hasn't received a significant renovation since, and signs of its age are everywhere. From the leaking ceiling panels in this first grade classroom, to the broken wheelchair lifts, to the old energy-sapping windows in a building without air conditioning. School District of Lancaster Assistant Superintendent Matt Pryzwara says the school's problems don't end there.
Unit ventilators, which they have back there, which are recycling the air or blowing heat. If our boiler's not working properly, if a boiler goes down, then the temperature gets out of control. And they're already wet again?
The district has been applying Band-Aids for years and trying to adjust to changing technology. Server boxes hang in the hallways, bringing the internet to teachers' laptops and projectors.
How much money?
But the school's aging electrical system is struggling to power it all.
We have to be very cautious on how many things we can plug in the plugs here because it'll blow. And it sounds pretty simple, but all those things need to be intact.
Some places have extremely outdated, borderline unsafe facilities, and that needs to be addressed.
Mifflin County High School teacher Ashley Crossan is Pennsylvania's Teacher of the Year. She says her students notice the differences.
For them, it's very apparent. They walk into a building and sometimes they're like, oh wow, my school's really nice compared to this. And other times they walk into a building and they're like, well, wait a minute, we don't have that, and we don't have that. What's that all about? If our students across our state are feeling inadequate, or are feeling inferior simply because of their zip code, that's a problem.
Our buildings across the state, they're crumbling, and there's such a need right now. When they have the better conditions, they're going to learn a lot in a lot more effective manner.
Lawmakers recognize the issue.
I've asked, and I've not ever gotten an answer, why we have school districts that have facilities that are, where there's lead-based paint falling from the walls.
The School District of Lancaster has been planning to replace or renovate Burrowes Elementary and aging schools like it since 2007, wanting to address concerns in 20 buildings over 10 years. Funding issues pushed the timeline back at least a decade, and in that time, the project's total cost ballooned to more than $400 million.
We were reliant on both a state share, which is normally about 25%, of the cost that they would reimburse us through a program called PlanCon. That program no longer exists. And the rest, the 75%, was on the backs of our local taxpayers here.
Pryzwara says about 87% of the district students receive free or reduced lunches. While the higher poverty rate means the district receives a higher percentage of its funding from the state, lower property tax revenue leaves little room for improving buildings. A recent study from the Pennsylvania School Board Association found almost 19% of school districts see school facility maintenance as their biggest challenge this year. Meanwhile, 23.9% say facility construction is a top budget pressure. The author of the report says the School District of Lancaster's situation isn't unique.
If you go to the rural and a lot of the urban communities, most of their education dollars come from the state. But in the suburban areas, they're able to generate revenue locally. So they're able to meet those mandated cost increases from pensions, charter schools, special education, and have money left over to invest in facilities.
Last year, Pennsylvania enacted 2 bills that created programs to address school construction needs and environmental repairs and agreed on a $175 million amount. But right now, there's no funding for those programs. Democrats and Republicans from the Basic Education Funding Commission agree that programs should be funded, and they want to start another program called PlanCon 2.0. It's a formula that would fairly reimburse schools when they complete construction projects. Both sides agree they need a better understanding of how much needs to be spent on school construction statewide, so it's likely they'll ask the Department of Education to conduct periodic studies. What's not yet clear is how much funding will be agreed upon. The Democratic-backed majority report wants $300 million per year and $2.1 billion over the next 7 years. Governor Shapiro followed that recommendation in his recent budget proposal.
Democratic Representative Mike Sturla had a heavy hand in the BEFC report.
Because we suspended programs to help schools
with their school facilities and buildings, we actually need to do something along those lines also. So we put another couple billion in to do school facilities so that kids aren't going to school in schools that have lead or asbestos or leaky roofs. Once the schools are then fully funded, 7 years from now under this plan, we will then say to those schools, you know, we'll help, but we're not going to pay for the most of this.
I think it's a good start in terms of where they ended the old PlanCon program to get some new monies back into schools where people have been pushing it off. I'm sure there are many school districts in the Commonwealth that have deferred maintenance.
Republican BEFC member Senator Greg Rothman questions what kind of maintenance is necessary.
Is air conditioning really, I mean, that's a first world problem. I asked the one architect who testified, I mean, I think it was like 99.9% of all the schools in the world don't have air conditioning.
Our school day goes beyond the standard day for extended day programming, and we also have a host of summer programs. And that's what we're trying to do to meet the achievement gaps. So for us, we need to have buildings that can be conditioned for all types of the environment. Hot, cold, in between, all those things.
Rothman and his Republican counterparts worry Democrats' funding number may be too high, concerned it's digging into the state's nest egg.
I mean, the rainy day fund is a one-time expenditure. And education, that's not what we do. I mean, it'd be one thing if you say, okay, we're going to take the money and put it into building a new school or fixing a school. But to create new programs, that's where we end up getting in trouble.
With another budget battle looming, Sturla acknowledges districts could suffer the most from a delay.
We got to smooth those numbers. Again, trying to get some predictability and consistency for school districts who say, we're sitting here waiting for you guys to pass a budget, and we've already passed our budget, and then we have to go back in and reopen our budget and change funding, and you haven't funded buildings, and we don't know whether we're responsible for a building or you are, or, you know, so we're trying to create some consistency and stability.
We're forced to then, you know, approve our budget before the state does and have to make decisions around academic programming or building projects, sometimes well, and in the case of last year, many months before the state actually says, here's what we're going to provide to schools.
Burrowes Elementary School will be demolished and rebuilt next year as part of the School District of Lancaster's next phase of construction. Now, we don't know the exact number school districts can expect to receive from the state for building maintenance and environmental upgrades. We won't know until at least this summer at the earliest. In the meantime, there are some other concerns looming large. Next week, we will dive into Pennsylvania's ongoing teacher shortage and what's caused it, as well as solutions lawmakers are considering. Marshall Keeley, Fox 43 News.